Hey everybody, it's Anna J. Wellner with the Author Library, and today I am ecstatic to have with me the lovely Stephanie LaVigne. Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Stephanie. I write mystery and romance. I live in South Florida, and I am really excited to be here today.
Can I just say that I love the pink hair? I would love to be able to rock the pink hair.
This was a bit of a whim, as many things are, but now I said I think it's just all coming full
Okay.
circle because I think I'm becoming the embodiment of Florida, of like South Florida, and like palm trees and like pink and turquoise.
I love it. You guys, Stephanie is the author of Sweet Romance and Cozy Mysteries. It's perfect summer beach reads, headlines, deadlines, and lies. It just sounds like such a great read. And that is your newest release. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yep. So that has just come out. It's been really fun. That was in the works for a while. It was a bit of a like it was originally as a Hallmark mystery, so hopefully to be turned into a TV show. But right now I'm just releasing it. So it's really fun, really light. It's a genealogical mystery. Not a lot of those. I'm number one in genealogy on Amazon right now for a while, probably because there are so few genealogical mysteries. But it is quite a mysterious subject matter. If you start looking into your own family history, you may find a lot of missing pieces. That's what I started finding, that in all sides of my family tree and my friends, like, oh, interesting. There's a lot of drama, deceit, secrecy, and woven tales that are probably not quite true. You know, the a retelling of family histories that are, once you dive into them, not quite
What they appear to be.
yes.
Definitely a great place to start with a cozy mystery book.
Yep. And it's a lot of friendship. It's very I'd say it's definitely a great beach read because it has, at the base of it is a character who just really long tight friendships, and there's a quite fun romantic element of a crime reporter who moves to the small town and kind of wins over a single mom, and her parents are there and give her a hand. It's just a fun cast, and she works in a newspaper. It's very lighthearted fun, but if you happen to have like deep friendships and those are important to you, it would really ring true. That was one of the strongest things that I underlying things besides the mystery and all that comes forth in this one too.
There you go, guys. Definitely something to bring poolside, beachside. Definitely sounds like an awesome summer read. But is it going to become a series or is this a standalone?
I'm building a larger world, which is interesting, I think, in mystery. Not that it's completely undone, but I decided to build this world right now, or the larger series title is The Sunshine State, and then I have what I'm calling mini series within it. And so this is part of the standalone Cozy and Crime mini series or sub series. And so I have a couple standalone cozy mysteries with amateur detectives, amateur sleuths as the main leads in these small Florida towns. And then the next sub series is more of a traditional series. It's about a woman who fakes her own death to get out of a bad situation, and then ends up sort of hiding in plain sight in South Florida and getting roped into a missing persons situation with the rookie cop. That's still in the works, so don't hold me to that exact plot line. But that will be all a little bit more traditionally related, but they all take place in Florida because there's so much weird, quirky nuance to Florida, and I've grown to really love it.
Yeah, because of the covers, the Fox Hill Southern Mystery Series, it sounds right up my alley. Being from Texas, I thought that it was, I mean, it definitely, you can tell that it is Southern just by the cover. Great, beautiful covers. And it's the latest in the latest one is The Homecoming, which is the latest release in that series. I thought it was like, I thought it was in Texas.
No, it's in Tennessee. So yeah, so that was a little while ago. I did that, and it was just, you know, even though I love Florida, I kind of yearn for mountains. I mean, I can't be away from ocean, you know, like that's sort of my centering thing because I know it so well. But, you know, you also have those things like I love mountains and rolling hills and just like Southern living, and it's fun to be able to live through it in a series. Fox Hill is very Southern, or a small Tennessee town. It's fun.
That's what I was going to ask. I love all of the titles, truly Southern titles. And is Fox Hill based on a real place? Is Fox Hill based on a real place?
It is. Yeah, a little glitch there. So yep. I'm going to try and answer that. Hopefully I got the whole question. But most of my the Florida stories are now becoming more factual with the thing I'm working on right now, for example. But Fox Hill was completely fictional. In my romance, and then in when I started doing cozies, I create a fictional town. Sometimes I have a bit of a baseline of a real town, but I want to create my own little world in there so that people, I don't know, so you can kind of escape and I can do with it what I want. And if you're going to be if you're going to have it in a real town, I think you really want to make sure that you're true to that town. And, you know, these I just want to play and be able to create, you know, because I had a music hall and I just want like this dusty music hall that her grandparents had run that was, you know, in its heyday, but now the whole town is just like kind of a ghost, is turning into a ghost town because there's just no industry there anymore. And she kind of gets drawn back and she's like, oh, I inherited, her grandparents didn't die. My husband's like, stop killing people. He's like, everyone doesn't have to die all the time. He's like, stop writing about widows. I'm like, okay, fine. But so her grandparents retire and go on a round the world cruise in Fox Hill, and they leave her the old music hall that in its heyday was wonderful. But the caveat is she can do with it what she wants. She can sell it, which is her intention because she lives in Chicago now and she's a realtor. And she's like, I'm done with that life. I don't ever go back. But she has to sign the paperwork back in dusty old Fox Hill. So she's like, oh, fine, she's like that complicated relationship. I'm going to fly in, sign the paperwork. But of course, the grandparents knew better because, you know, her old best friend and her best friend's rather handsome, grumpy brother that she grew up with are, you know, back there running the cafe. And then like the geriatric box office attendant who's been there and she sees ghosts and she's just wacky and lovable, you know, all the people. And she's like, oh, and the town's on its last legs. And it's like, what is going on? Okay, fine. I'm just going to at least I'll just help a little bit. Like, you know, I don't want my hometown to just basically blow away into dust. So I might as well do a little something, a little sleuthing. Then she becomes a town marketer and detective and goes on for four books.
I'm instantly in love with her just from your description of the character. So does it follow the same character or characters, or is each book host to a new cast, or do we get to follow her?
Yeah, so this one is 4 books with the same cast. So Caitlin
awesome.
is, yeah, and those are really fun, right? And again, that's why it was a little weird when I did with the Cozy and Crimes, because they, you know, I almost want to go in and see if I want to live in that world for longer. And not that I don't, but sometimes I'm like, you know what, that story's been told and I'm good for right now. And I can always go, I always leave them open-ended. But so with Fox Hill, I knew that I sort of wanted it to be her coming back and then the little mysteries along the way, you know, and sort of the relationship progresses maybe with her and the Kurt, the cafe guy. And I was done 3 books and I thought I would end it there, but then just something I was like, there was this open-ended question about this one last thing because he has a brother that disappeared, a younger brother who disappeared, and it was just always kind of left like, man, it'd be cool to find out. Not cool, but like I always wish I knew what had happened, and I just kept thinking, do I go back and just change that ending? Because she's like, I'll help you find him. I'll help you find out. I'm like, why did I write that? No, and because now I need to know. And so the last book finally that's coming out this year, it's been written. I just have to edit it and send it to the editors and get it all spiffed up and got the cover done. But just get it ready for press. But I'm like, okay, now it's good. Now we know what happened to everybody, and complete.
It's so funny how that happens whenever you get to what you think is going to be the end book in the series. I mean, it happened to me, and you realize that there's more that needs to happen, that this hasn't been resolved, and it's almost like, I mean, I find too, and I don't know if you're the same way, but you fall in love with the characters and you almost kind of don't want to let them go. So you create conflict, another conflict that they have to solve.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I've spent so much time with you, but now
Right.
now I'm setting them out with mysteries where I'm like, oh gosh, I'm almost overdoing it because I'm like, I need to have all of these books, and I'm doing a Bella now, and I'm like, okay, every one I want to have a crime that needs to be solved. I'm like, oh gosh. So it's also like, will there ever be an end? You know, I'm just at the beginning of it, but I'm like, I always tend to be big picture thinker, sometimes too much, to where I'm like, oh man, now I have to sit down and write all that's wonderful on paper.
Right. Wonderful, wonderful in my head, but yeah, no, I completely get that. And so I totally get the cozy mystery romance vibe from every single one of these, from the descriptions to the covers. Does each book have both elements? I mean, which is the best part for you to write, the romance or the mystery? What's the most fun for you to write?
Well, I have a pen name that I do romance under, and Sweet Romance, and I don't tend to do mystery in those. That doesn't mean there's not conflict and whatnot, but they're very uplifting, I think, or I aim for. I really want people to come out of those just feeling good and feeling hope in the world, and just like, you know what, maybe taking this leap of faith in my life is worthwhile. Maybe taking a chance on something that seems completely crazy. Yeah, it's a common theme that we have in our lives.
I can sympathize with that thought process.
And it's scary. You just as more than many, I'm sure, from our new fledgling friendship. You know, we know that it's hard to. It is both exciting and scary to take those leaps of faith, and I think, or just be like, how am I doing this, and take steps in the direction of something that could be everything.
Right.
And that's one of the great things about romance that I didn't learn until I had started reading and writing and learning. It's like, well, why do we read romance? Yeah, hope, 100%. And we should have that in so many arenas. We're always coming up against obstacles. Life is challenging.
Right.
And like, if you don't have that, even on a day-to-day basis, you have to find little things to get excited about, little things to believe in and hope.
Absolutely. And that is why I am a sucker for a good, I do incorporate a fair bit of romance into my own writing. And so, and I think that's my hopes and dreams, and that, I think that's a little bit of a telling of me coming out in my writing sometimes. Do you is that the same for you? Sometimes you catch yourself like, oh, I'm writing myself into the story in some way.
I think that part of all of my stories is really integral to who I am. I'm always like, I'm the queen of like, you can do it. For myself, that's harder. It's harder for me to tell myself, but any one of my friends, I'm like the person that you will call, and I'm like, you can do whatever this crazy thing is, and we're going to figure out, there's just steps to it, and there's a strategy, and it's possible. And that's like my happy place, and very much how I feel. But, of course, it's always difficult. I do manage to get through in my own life. But so, yeah, I think that is, if nothing else, something that is very intrinsically me that I write into the stories.
I'm definitely a hopeless romantic. I think I always will be. It's just something, that's part of who I am.
Yeah, I think I never understood, I think before I started writing romance, this idea of the happily ever after. You always wanted to be like, oh, I want to mess with things, but then I'm like, you know what? I want everyone to be happy. At the end of the day, I really want all of us to just have just an incredible life, whatever that means to us. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have ups and downs, but I still want it to be fun, exciting, and like worth it, you know? And so that is something that I hope comes through. And then with mystery, it's just slightly different because I like the puzzles, and I can have a little bit more of a badass character, and that's another the flip side of my personality, which is like, I got it, I can do it all by myself, and I'm fine, and it's fun, and I'll figure it out. And
we're too much alike. I'm telling you, we're so much alike. Because I have similar tendencies, and yeah. So anyway.
I think that too. There's an independent resilience and independence is.
Yeah.
I think that's a happily ever after in its own right, right? And even though in mysteries we don't call it that, but I think that's something that's compelling with certain kinds of characters and across genres. If you're, especially if you're prone to certain protagonists that are just like, what for me in mysteries that like, I got this, like I'm gonna figure it out, like scrappy, or you can whatever their personality is, but it still has that core of like competence, even if it's crazy and doesn't make sense and fails, it's still like I'm going forward and I'm gonna keep trying. And I really like that in my reading and my writing for like mysteries or acne.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So, did you do any kind of research for the, forensic scientific aspects? Do you delve into that in the murder mystery books from that standpoint, say the criminal justice standpoint or the forensics standpoint?
So the books that are out right now they're almost like crossovers, because I still want to be able to write originally for my, at the time, much larger audience, which was
Right.
Sweet Romance. And so, and they like mysteries. They love a good mystery, just people who read romance in small towns and want that uplifting. It doesn't mean they're not like puzzle minded or crime minded, they're fun, and not that romance isn't fun, but you know what I mean? Like there's varied interests. And so I wanted something that would tie in, and that was also strategically made sense in the beginning too, and to kind of be more cozy. And so those requires, you always research, but they don't require forensics because I wasn't focusing on murder as much.
Right.
And so I really wanted to, it's just been such a intense time that I just was focusing like, can I do this without murder? And now, so now I'm doing a little bit different. So, and I am having to get into a little bit more. So for example, my serial that I'm working on right now is called Sunshine Crime. And it's like it's sort of the inspiration with Florida Man crimes. Are you familiar with like Florida Man?
No, I'm not.
Florida Man's like a meme. And because we have just like the craziest criminals, we just have these wackadoo things that, weird stuff happens all over the country, but you're just always like, oh, that was probably in Florida. And then it is, it like always is. And so there's like, you could go online and you just type in Florida Man, and there's just this thing that always comes up and people are like, Florida, it's a Florida Man thing. And so I'm
going to look it up. I've got to know now.
Yeah. So you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. I secretly knew that. Yeah. It's, although I'm sure Texas probably has its fair share of interesting crime.
I think it's maybe it's a Southern thing. Maybe it's a Gulf States thing. I don't know, because we have some pretty crazy stuff that happens around here too. So.
Well, you can start like Texas Man, like the follow-up. Yeah. Or I'll look into it. I'll start doing some posts about it and be like, Texas Man, that'll be my next thing. But so I just I knew I wanted to do something with a female detective. I have like 5,000 mental female detectives, and I'm like always trying to, I'm like, no, this has to become 1 to 2 series, they don't each get their own series. And so sometimes that happens too, where I have to take time to get things where they need to be so that I'm not spread too thin with a million different people and characters. But this was originally called Florida Man, like Florida Man. And then now it's Sunshine Crime. And the inspiration is these sort of crimes that of like Florida folk that are just so random. And so some of them, I've done so much research with that, because you're like, oh, how do you choose? But then also, how do you make a whole story? Sometimes you see a headline that's really riveting and makes you laugh, but then you're like, well, I have to write a whole story about it. So I need to also make sure that makes sense. And with that, I think more and more, forensics, and in this last one, they find a finger and there's an alligator that's like thrown the finger up. And so they're like, the missing person, did the alligator eat the missing person, or did he disappear? Like, what's happened? And then, so we're looking like at the finger and how long has it been in? And, so there are logistical things.
Yep. You kind of have to play by the rules of science in some ways.
Yes. In prison, like a lot of my stuff recently has to do, this one series has to do with prison. She has gotten herself put into prison to protect herself from outside forces, which we haven't learned about yet. And then she gets released from prison. But so, against her will, sort of, unexpectedly. And she's like, no, it's terrible in there, but I'm safe in there. And so that's like this, that's sort of the way that book starts. But I have to figure out, like, even a couple nights ago, I'm like, okay, what is the area called? Like, is it the discharge area? Is it the exit? What happens? I'm in Reddit's, like, so when you're let out of prison, like, I visited someone in prison once before, and like, I've watched Orange is the New Black. Like, I know a lot about prison. No, but you have to go in and start making sure you're accurate, because
somebody will call you on it.
Totally. And even, some stuff doesn't even seem realistic. Like, my scene opens up in a shower, and she's getting beat up, and I'm like, I swear it gets funnier than this. But there's no cameras in the showers in a lot of these prisons, and you're like, it doesn't seem reasonable. So, she gets thrown in solitary, even though she was the one beat up, but it happens. And I'm sitting there making sure that this happens, but they're like, if we don't see it and there's no cameras, this is just the way it goes a lot of the time. And it's weird too when you're accurate, and then people are like, no, that wouldn't happen. You're like, man, it does. I'm so sorry, but I promise I looked this up. This was not an artistic license.
That's so funny. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a blast, and I cannot wait to grab my own copy and hang out by the pool, because my little one is just now learning how to swim, or is not afraid of the water. And so we have been hitting the pool every once and again. So now I know my perfect poolside read, and you guys should definitely check it out too. So make sure that you check out the links to all of Stephanie's stuff on Amazon that are in the comments. And I will definitely link to her website as well. So keep up with everything that she's got coming out, because it sounds like you've got a ton of ideas, awesome ideas.
Yeah, a lot of things in the work right now. So it's always fun. It's always exciting. I'm going to send you a book and some sunglasses, and you're going to be set for the summer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sounds like an awesome, it's a date. And if I ever get over to Florida, we're totally hanging out.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely.
Well, thank you again. And everybody, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, because you don't want to miss out on more amazing content that is coming up, and more amazing guests. Stephanie. And stay safe, stay happy, healthy and happy. And we'll catch you guys next time.